Hello, this is Max Grossman with the El Paso Taxpayer Revolt, and it is our honor today to welcome Felix Muñoz, who is the candidate for District 5, who we support. And before saying another word, full transparency, we fully endorse Felix Muñoz for City District 5. We think that by far he is the most qualified candidate and the most likely to win, which is a great combination. Welcome, Felix.
Thank you, sir.
Such a pleasure to have you. Love the hat.
I love the hat, yes, sir.
And we are grateful for your service to our country.
Thank you, sir.
Let's start with you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Sacramento, California.
Okay.
Way back in 1965. I was part of the first Generation X.
I'm Generation X too. Best generation ever.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I was born in December, so a late bloomer. But then I was raised here in El Paso. I went to several schools here before I graduated from Bowie High School back in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
And then in October of 85, I joined the military, and I was stationed. I did my basic training here and my AIT here in Fort Bliss. Then I went to Bitburg, Germany at an Air Force base because we were the Air Force Artillery. We provided security and defense of Bitburg, which is no longer an active Air Force base, but it was very close to Spangdahlem, Baumgartner, over there in Germany. So,
Okay, so you graduated from Bowie in 85 and immediately enlisted in the Army.
yes, well, I immediately I signed up when I was in high school because we did back then they had the entry delay program, so I already had committed it to join the military while I was still a senior. And once I graduated, and that's when they took me for basic training.
So 4 years in the Army.
Yes.
And you exited the Army in 1993?
Right, out of the reservist list. But I was active for 4 and then reserve for 3.
And what did you do next?
Well, then I joined the Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Prisons.
Mm-hmm.
They actually came down to El Paso to recruit Hispanics because at that time they have all the Mariel Cubans and they needed Spanish-speaking individuals because they had a bunch of Cubans in prison. So we went to Terre Haute, Indiana at the penitentiary.
Wow.
And that's where I began my career as a senior officer.
Okay.
At that time.
Excellent. And so how long did you work in the prison system? How many years?
Oh, I'd say 26 years.
26 years. And while you worked for the DOJ in the prison system, you gained some important administrative experience.
Yes, during my time there, you moved to promote. So I went to several institutions, several states, until I reached the rank of lieutenant. And then as a lieutenant, I was operations of shifts. I was operations of the custody. And then towards the end of my career, I became the administrative lieutenant, which I was involved in supporting, maneuvering, handling, reducing budget for our officers, and rosters adjustments. In fact, I did a roster to improve the flow of the officers, which reduced our overtime almost to zero because we were always paying a lot of overtime.
How large was the budget within your unit?
We had an unlimited budget per se, but
Sounds like a government budget.
yes, but they didn't want us to go over a certain amount. I think the budget for the institution was like $300 million. But out of that budget, you have to, that was for medical, food service, facilities, and we have another budget for salaries for officers. We have a salary, but every time that you go overtime, that's where they take away from that. And I streamlined that roster, and to this day, they still use that roster. After I retired in 2016, so it's been 8 years since I retired, and they still use that roster because it's very effective.
Okay. So you retired in what year?
2016.
8 years ago. So
Yes,
you've been
sir.
retired. You're a young guy. You've been retired for a while, and you've been volunteering to fight ovarian cancer.
Yes, not literally fight, but I will provide my services for photography. I will do, when they have the events, for mothers that were not expected to live very much longer, I took family photos of them, because gatherings as their last together, and they always call me, and I was always with them. We did it in Tucson, Arizona. We went to Phoenix, and every time they had an event, I was always called, hey, can you come take pictures? We did take pictures and everything, but it was more of sentimental for them because their mother or their sister or their aunt was not going to be there much longer, and I did all the events they could.
Right, and so you have a photography business.
Yes, sir.
Does it have a name, your company?
It's AM, FM Imaging. The AM is for the wife, Anita Muñoz. The FM is for Felix Muñoz. I kind of did that together.
And how many years have you been doing that?
Since 2006, when I started doing photography for my son's football teams.
Okay.
And for some reason, it just rolled over. And then I did quinceañeras. I did the yearbooks for them. And I did photography for our local newspapers in Tucson. My work got published and everything. So I did pretty good.
And how long have you lived in District 5 then, total?
Total, well, I came here in 2016 for 2 years, and then we left to Tucson because my wife got promoted, and then we came back in 2020, and I've been living in District 5 since 2020 consecutive.
Okay, good. And so tell us a little bit about why you made the choice to run for city council. I mean, you this is your second run.
Yes, my first one was in 2022 because I was very disappointed because my son purchased a house. He was about to sign, and then unknowingly they had a tax hike, which hurt my son's financial. And then at the same time, the government, the interest rates went up, so he had to wind up paying a $10,000 more for his mortgage, which was out of reach. And I was upset, and I ran because city council were always raising taxes, and I just got fed up.
Right.
That's the reason I ran. I did it more of anger, because my son was going to purchase his first home and couldn't do it, and I did it out of anger.
Right. So you are as upset as we are with our property tax burden, which is really out of control by any standard.
Yes.
El Pasoans bear an unfair property tax burden. Our 5 taxing entities, they seem to keep raising our taxes almost every year. And the city in particular has been the worst actor traditionally, at least until recently.
Yes.
Now things are better. But,
yes, I agree.
But when you first ran for office, you were, of course, running against Isabel Salcido,
The incumbent.
Who is still there, unfortunately. I'm just going to be very frank, right, because we call it like it is. Let's talk about her a little bit. Isabel Salcido, business owner. She has real estate interests, owned a couple of bars. She increased our property tax 3 times, voted for well over $300 million in certificates of obligation. That's debt without voter approval. And that money funded a whole range of things that were non-essential, including cost overruns on entertainment projects, quality of life bond projects. She supported just about every boondoggle, every wasteful project that came across her desk, including Great Wolf Lodge, which is the poster boy for corrupt, wasteful projects. TERS 13, that huge 2,313-acre abatement for Paul Foster and his business partner, worth hundreds of millions of dollars in non-payment of property tax. The arena, she was all in. Let's displace poor people, wipe out their neighborhood, use eminent domain, destroy history to build a $500 million G League basketball stadium. Luckily, that's not going to happen anymore. So there are a lot of things to complain about. And not only that, Salcido raised 99.79% of her money from her last election from outside of her district. Almost all of it from the West Side and Upper Valley, because she works for the big developers, their bankers, and their attorneys, not for the taxpayers of District 5. Am I mistaken?
No.
So you were not exactly thrilled with her performance.
No, because I did not agree with the proposal that they made. We have a Don Haskins, we have a Southwest Park, we have Civic Center, we have Don Haskins, we have a Sun Bowl. They're all capable of holding entertainment. It's already done. It's already paid for. There was no need to have another one. And El Paso, the city is already overcrowded. And when they have 2-3 events, the traffic is horrible. And it just, for me, it was no sense. And then Dunganito paid the price for something that never happened. That should have never been brought up. But it did. Now it's over. But like I said, we had the Sun Bowl, Southwest Park, Civic Center, Don Haskins, much capable of doing anything they wanted to have entertainment. There was no need to destroy that little town.
Now, I'm with you. Of course, I was the plaintiff that stopped the project. So let's go through some of the issues that face us nowadays, especially in District 5 and just in El Paso at large. Number one, of course, is property tax, which we've already touched upon. You are against high taxation.
Of course.
You are for finding efficiencies, holding the line on taxes, and if possible, reducing taxes.
Yes.
Okay. And that means containing spending.
Right. Do an audit, streamline where the money is going. I don't want to do a bond, how they say, to pay Peter from Paul. You know what I'm saying? If the money is intended for something like the 2022 bond that we approved, that people voted, fine. They voted it, okay. Let's make sure that money is spent when it's intended for, not for these little projects that have no business. That's how we get to do it. Streamline. If the money's intended for this, do it. I would love to do independent audits to find out where that money's going to. Mm-hmm. If it's not going anywhere, hey, I'm going to do a red flag says that money was not intended for that.
What about public safety? Crime's up.
Crime's up.
We probably don't have enough police officers. The fire department always needs our help. Where are you on public safety and fire?
Well, me being law enforcement, I support them 100%. And
always, right?
Always. Law enforcement, police, first responders. Now we have a new unit right there on Pebble Hills.
Right.
But I don't believe it's active yet. It's being manned, but I don't think it's online yet, which is great. And I got word that next to it they're going to build a fire department right next to it, which is great. As far as District 5, it's great because the response will be a lot quicker. And instead of going from Pebble Hills on the other side of I-10 or 375, which is great. We have a response. As far as what's going on with our district is, we have a new district. It's a new district. It's a growing district. It's a beautiful district, and it looks like it's been years there. The streets are decaying. We have weeds everywhere, and it's not maintained like a new project. It seems like they forgot about it.
That's because the city is so busy with trolleys, water parks, arenas, stadiums, TERSs, all these boondoggles and top-heavy projects, that they neglect the things that are most important: police, fire, and streets.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100% because I live there. I want to be proud of my district.
Right.
I want to, when I came up here in your area, beautification. You have trees. You have bushes, nice bushes. We got tumbleweeds.
Right.
That's not right.
Let me get into the police a little bit more. Are you one of these people who thinks the police should be defunded?
No.
Are you one of these people who thinks that we should send social workers into domestic violence situations?
Never. That's the worst thing they can do.
Right. Law enforcement needs our support.
That's why they're law enforcement. Law enforcement, not other people to go for that. They get paid, and they need to be well paid too. That's one of my things. I will support fundraisers. Pay raises for them, including any first responders.
As long as, of course, we have the money for it.
Yes, as long as we have the money for it.
Okay. Streets. How are the streets in District 5? How have they been faring under Isabel Salcido?
Okay, now, I don't know because if it's an election year, but I see a lot of paint stripping already. I see a lot of lights going up. But prior to that, there was nothing. It seems like every time there's an election year, things start to pop up.
Right.
But that should be done all the time.
Now, there has been a change in the balance of power on City Council. On January 3rd, 2023, just last year, the good guys won from our standpoint. And now we have a City Council, the majority of which, not Salcido, but the majority of which is supporting the taxpayers. And so Tommy Gonzalez was fired. The arena was moved out of Duranguito. We now have 2 years in a row of no tax increases, no new debt issued for 2 consecutive fiscal years. 2 TERSs have been canceled, wiped off the books, saving the city $9.2 million a year. Audits have been conducted by Brian Kennedy, the 380 agreements, the P cards, the gas cards. And so corruption is being uprooted, government is being streamlined, the taxpayers are being taken care of, and for the first time since I've been in El Paso, I see street construction everywhere, don't you?
Yes.
Things are getting better.
They're getting better slowly. In the main areas, our districts still need a lot of help, though.
Yes. Should government be in the entertainment business?
No.
I mean, do we really need publicly funded water parks and arenas? I mean, isn't that for the private sector?
We have investors that would do that.
They are. They're building a 12,500 seat amphitheater in Northeast.
But at no taxpayer expense, which is good.
Right.
Yeah, so government is to be for the people, for the taxpayers, not for the entertainment. Yes, they want revenue to come in, but at what cost? They're choking the living tax out of us.
Right.
You know, people who are in fixed incomes, they're struggling. The elderly people, that when they get their Social Security or whatever they get, they're struggling because they pay more and more. Now, luckily, the last 2 years, it's kind of leveled off, but still, you know, for the last couple of years, tax increase. You know, 5 years to pay this, 10 years to. We're now probably like 50 years in debt for all the ones that they did. That's a lot of years. My son was going to still be paying the taxes that happened 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I've got 2 daughters, and you're like me, right? We're both Generation X. We're
Yes.
about the same age, and we're worried about our children.
I think I'm a tad older than you.
Only a little bit.
Yes.
1967. Summer
65.
of life. Well, we're both Generation X,
Yeah, we're
right?
Generation
Let's
X.
fist that one. So we care about our children, and
Yes.
our 5 taxing entities and our water utility are 10.7 billion in debt. 2.3 billion of that is city debt, and of that 2.3 billion, 852 million principal and interest on 10 certificates of obligation that we never voted for. We never got to vote on that, and we're going to be paying those off for decades. That's on our children and grandchildren.
Yes.
That's thanks to Isabel Salcido, thanks to Cassandra Hernandez, Henry Rivera, the members of the former city council, 3 of whom are still there, who voted for all of this debt, all of this taxation, all of these projects, because they keep telling us, build it and they will come. But our population is shrinking.
They're leaving.
Exactly. And why are they leaving?
Tax.
Thank you.
Tax.
It's not the brain drain. I could name 24 of my neighbors who moved to New Mexico. You can see right across the river over there.
See, for me, I'm not a politician. I'm just a taxpayer like everybody else. I pay my taxes, and I'm running with open eyes to see what I can do. This term is only 18 months before 2026.
So you got to run again.
Got to run again. If I can't do this in 18 months to prove that I can do this in 18 months, there's no sense of me running in 2026. I got 18 months to prove to my district that I can do this.
Right. I mean, from our standpoint, you've got the perfect background. Military, Department of Justice, budget and administrative experience, clearly an ethical man, and clearly you hold the right views. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions. So, everybody knows that a small number of families contribute disproportionately to elections, right? Salcido, she goes to the West Side to raise tens of thousands of dollars for her elections, for example. Are you the kind of guy who will stay independent of corporate special interests who pressure you to vote for more debt, to vote for higher taxes? Or can you hold fast against that, maintain your convictions, and stand with the taxpayers, with the little guy, no matter what?
Well, like I said, I'm not a politician. I work for my district and the taxpayers because I saw the suffering that my son did. And I'm sure my son was not the only one. So I can, for sure, other people that want to first-time home buyers didn't make it because of that. So I'm not a politician, and I state that very well. I'm going to go in with open mind. If I see something wrong, I'm going to red flag it because we're tired of it. I'm tired of it. My family's tired of it. Everybody's tired of it. We got to slow it down.
Right, right. And one thing we really like about you is that you are retired.
Yes.
It sounds like a small thing, but actually it's very important. I mean, you are in your late 50s. You have your career behind you.
You're not going to advertise in my late 50s, but it's okay.
Sorry. I'm in my late 50s too.
Okay.
So you have a lot of politicians, including some of your competitors here, who are in their early to mid 30s who want to make politics their life. That's their career. Their career is getting elected and soliciting donations and contributions and getting ahead, then going from office to office, from city to county. Maybe I can run for state office. And that's all they're thinking. You're not thinking that at all, are you?
No. I got 18 months to get the job done.
You want to serve your community.
Yes, for 18 months.
You want to take care of your kids.
Yes.
Absolutely.
If I can't do it in 18 months, there's no need for me to run in 2026.
Good. Let's talk about your 4 competitors. There are 5 people running for District 5 to replace Isabel Salcido. And just to be clear, Salcido was supposed to serve for another 2 years. But she is what military people call AWOL. She's abandoned her post in order to run for mayor out of pure ambition, apparently. And she's going to lose. Doesn't matter. January 7th, the seat is going to be empty, and whoever wins this election on November 5th is going to fill that seat. So there's you, of course. Ivan Nino is probably your main competitor, and he is Isabel Salcido's chief legislative aide. So he earns $60,000 or $70,000 working in her office, and he is running to replace his boss. And of course, he stands for everything she stands for by default: high taxes, large capital improvement projects, bonding, spending, pleasing the big developers. This is a guy who has little or no private sector experience or experience outside of government, whereas you have a government career in the Army and the DOJ, but you've gained a lot of valuable experience in these decades, right?
Yes.
Then you've got Tamara Davis, who is Cassandra Hernandez's treasurer. That's it. Got nothing to add. That's all we need to say about that. And then you've got 2 other people, Amanda Cunningham and Sean Orr. And I've spoken to both of them. I'm going to say that they're both very good people, very well-intentioned. They too, I would call them fiscal conservatives. But I just don't think that they have the ground game and the connections, at least not at this time, to mount a successful campaign. I really feel that you are in the right place in your life and that you have the correct motivations, the experience, and you've got a great team.
Yes.
Going into this election, and you're working hard, right?
Yes.
Do you have anything to say about your opponents?
No, we got to keep it nice and clean.
Good. I like to hear that too.
Yes.
I like to hear that too. So, what about your strategy? You got time to block walk? Go meet your constituents?
I did a little bit of block walking on yesterday. Unfortunately, a lot of them were not there. They were, Sunday. It was Sunday, and everybody's watching games. So we did a little block walking. They did allow me to. You go. It's okay. We understand. You can put a yard sign in our yard, and that's what I was doing. Even though they didn't want to talk, because it's Sunday football, but they allowed me to put yard signs on the yard, and that's what I did. So I put maybe about 30 yard signs.
Excellent. That's what you need
Yes.
to do. But the main thing is you got to keep block walking.
Yes.
In all your spare time, meet all of your constituents, get to know them, hear their concerns, right?
Yes.
What are you hearing?
Tax, roads, and safety crosswalks for our children, for our school students. Because where I go, I live next to the Pebbles High School. It's a cluster in the mornings when they all go to school, and you have the crosswalkers doing. There's something that we have to do because it just our district is growing so much. There's a lot of students walking through the streets, and that's, for me, that's a hazard. We got to fix that.
Right.
One of my suggestions is put more lights, stop lights. The 4-way stop, that's not going to work a lot. Hopefully, lights, work better. If not, even if we can afford it, catwalks. So
right.
This way the kids are not even nowhere near the street. They just go over and straight to their schools.
Right.
Pebble Hill is very congested. Our streets are taking a lot of pounding because our district is growing. And the only thing that I don't like is we have very few avenues of leaving our district and coming in. We have a project that never got started in the back over there, leads to Horizon to 375 on the other end. We need more avenues of escape because we don't have very many.
You're right, and I know you'll be a strong advocate for District 5 if elected.
Mm-hmm.
One more question for you.
Go ahead.
Currently on City Council, is there anybody you particularly admire? Who do you think is doing a good job?
Kennedy. Kennedy from the get-go.
Yeah. How about the mayor?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I met him. Awesome. So Kennedy, Fierro, I have no problem. I met Canales once in 2020 when he was running, and that's about what Kennedy is.
Have you met Joe Molinar?
I met him briefly when I went to actually draw for my name.
Yeah.
And I drew number 4 on the ballot. I met him briefly. Yes.
Yeah. You two have a lot in common too, also, by the way.
Military, yes.
Yeah, and also just in terms of policy priorities.
Because I want to do it's time the city, instead of the best interest for entertainment, take care of the people first.
Right.
Once you take care of the people, things will start to happen.
Back to the basics.
Yes, back to the basics. That's one of my slogans I actually have. Back to the basics.
That's excellent. Well, look, I want to repeat that we at the El Paso Taxpayer Revolt endorse Felix Muñoz for City District 5 without any reservations. We think he's very highly qualified and that his heart is in the right place. And I don't know about his football team, but everything else is great. Okay?
Go Steelers.
Go Vikings. Okay. Hey, we're both NFC North.
Yes, there you go.
Well, anyway. Where can people go to contribute money and to volunteer?
Okay, the website should be up hopefully this afternoon, and it's www.felix4, the number 4, district, and the number 5.com.
Right. We'll repeat that. That's www.felix4 district number 5.com to contribute or to offer your services as a volunteer, and that website will be up maybe today or tomorrow.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, look, it's been an honor.
Awesome time. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Felix, and thank you again for your service to our country. We're grateful to you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to your victory.
God willing.
God willing.
Yes, sir.